Wake Up Sid begins by showing a young man named Sid Mehra, the only child of a wealthy businessman in Mumbai. Sid, better known as Sid, is a young man who is often lazy and not serious in his studies, even though he realizes he is in his final year of college. That night before his college final exams, instead of studying the exam material, Sid actually spent his time playing games and watching television. As a result, the following day, Sid woke up late and had to rush to campus without having time to study the exam material at all. While on campus, he was sure that he would fail his exams this semester and would have to repeat the same course next year. However, Sid was not upset and felt relieved after knowing that his male best friend, Rishi, seemed to have difficulty taking the exam, so they could repeat the course together next year. After the exams, Sid invites Rishi and his female best friend named Lakshmi to a nightclub and have fun together. In the afternoon, before going to the club, they went to a fancy restaurant to eat together and shopped at a mall to buy very expensive branded goods. Sid casually spends money on the credit card his father gave him because he likes to spend his money. He even unhesitatingly bought all the food for his best friend and paid for all their groceries. In the evening, Sid and his best friend then go to their usual nightclub and spend the whole night partying late into the night. In the morning, Sid's mother, Sarita Mehta, approaches and invites him to spend time together because, since college, Sid rarely goes with his mother. However, Sid refuses his mother's invitation and chooses to spend time playing in his room or hanging out with his friends. While at the dinner table, Sid's father saw him looking at the photos of the latest car, so he gave Sid an offer. His father promises to buy the car for Sid if he is willing to work for his company for 3 months. At first, Sid refuses the offer because working for 3 months is too long, but after his father changes the offer to 1 month's work, he finally accepts the offer. In the evening, Sid goes to a farewell party held by one of his college friends named Debbie. While at the party, a bored Sid decides to take some pictures using his new camera. At the party, he accidentally takes a photo and meets a girl named Aisha. Aisha is one of Debbie's friends who recently migrated from Calcutta to apply to a well-known magazine company in Mumbai as a writer. Sid is surprised because the magazine from the company Aisha is applying for is his subscription magazine. After all, he is interested in various interesting photos from the magazine. After talking at Debbie's party, Sid then took Aisha to a beach to enjoy the city view from across the beach. On that occasion, he asked Aisha if she was not afraid to live alone in a big city like Mumbai. Aisha explained that she was actually scared, but becoming a writer in the biggest media company had been her dream since she was young, so she wanted to pursue that dream. In the evening, Sid took Aisha to her hotel and gave her contact so they could communicate with each other in the following days. The next day, Sid comes to his father's company, Mumbai's largest furniture company. However, Sid decided to come to the company wearing casual clothes because he felt formal clothes were unsuitable for him. After arriving in the office building, the employees looked at him cynically because Sid's dress style did not match the office rules. But after they found out that Sid was the son of the company's owner, the company secretary immediately greeted him warmly and invited him to wait at his father's office. After Sid's father arrives, he emphasizes to Sid to be polite and follow company rules because he is just an ordinary employee like other employees in that office. On the first day, Sid was assigned by his father to work like other employees and study all company files carefully. However, because Sid was not interested in his father's company from the start, he got bored easily and wanted to go home and end the job. While Sid is at work, he gets an email from Aisha informing him that she has had her first job interview at a Mumbai magazine company. Sid replied to Aisha's email by telling her about his experience working at his father's company on the first day. Aisha. He says everyone in the office looks serious and yoke as they focus on their work. They don't even budge and ignore him when he is silly dancing on the office table.
Later, Sid.
One day, Aisha intends to move to another place because the inn that she currently lives in has too many mice and cockroaches. Sid then helped her by providing some contacts from renters at affordable prices in Mumbai. A few days after working at his father's company and being forced to study hundreds of company files, Sid began to feel bored and decided to leave the office. It seems that he has given up the luxury car he's been wanting because he can't stand all the workloads of the office anymore. That day, Sid accompanied Aisha to an in-house by a flirtatious woman named Sonia. After seeing the room that Sonia had rented out, Sid was disappointed because the room was very dirty and had been neglected for a long time. But Aisha felt comfortable with the rental house and decided to rent the house because she would clean and redecorate the room. Moreover, Aisha is very interested in the view of the city from the top floor of the house so that she can breathe fresh air whenever she wants. Sid then helped Aisha buy some equipment needed to redecorate the room and called his friends to help them repaint it. A few days later, on the day of his parents' wedding anniversary, Sid's mother introduces him to a girl named Tanya, the daughter of one of his father's friends. Shortly after, Sid gets a call from Aisha asking him to come to her house. Hearing this, Sid, who was bored, decided to leave the party and go to Aisha's house. There, Aisha invites Sid to celebrate her birthday together because she has never celebrated her birthday alone. After blowing out the candles and eating the strawberry jam cake, they enjoyed the night view of the city above the house. The next day, Aisha had a final interview with the CEO of a Mumbai magazine company named Kabir. After successfully answering all the silly questions from Kabir, Aisha was finally officially accepted to work at the company. Aisha immediately shares the happy news with Sid and tells him she has been accepted to work for a Mumbai magazine company. However, Sid's joy doesn't last long after he learns that he is the only student who doesn't pass the course, while his best friends pass the exam. He was disappointed and frustrated with the exam results and took all his frustrations out on his best friends and his mother. Sid's father, who heard Sid hurt his mother's feelings, immediately scolded him and forced him to apologize to his mother. However, Sid, who was frustrated and annoyed, even fought with his father until finally he decided to leave the house. After that, Sid, who had no money, chose to go to Aisha's house and asked for permission to stay for a few days. Aisha, who feels indebted to Sid for everything he did before, decides to help him and allows him to stay for some time. The next day, Aisha looked excited because it was her first day of work, so she got up early. Meanwhile, Sid, who has no money and no job at all, wakes up during the day and starts looking for food in the refrigerator. Unfortunately, in Aisha's refrigerator, Sid couldn't find instant food and there were only raw vegetables, while he didn't know how to cook at all. After work, Aisha looked surprised to see the messy condition of her room, but she tried to be patient and immediately tidied the room again. Even Aisha is kind enough to cook Sid dinner after learning that he has no money to buy food. The next day at work, Aisha tries to show Kabir her article, but he is too busy to see her writing, so she sneaks her article on Kabir's desk. A few days later, Lakshmi meets Sid at Aisha's house to give Sid's favorite things that are still left behind, including his new camera. Sid, who was bored, immediately continued his hobby, namely taking pictures of various events, activities, and scenery around the housing. He even learns how to fry eggs with Sonia so he can serve them to Aisha when she comes home from work. On the other hand, Aisha looks frustrated after Kabir asks her to remove all the non-important files from his desk and finds out that her article is included in the file. Due to the stress that Aisha feels from work, when she comes home, she scolds Sid for not making their bed. Aisha, feeling disgusted, threw her bag on the floor and left Sid in the house alone. Sid tried to contact Aisha repeatedly to apologize, but she refused the call. Sid sat quietly on a chair while contemplating all Aisha's previous words, and after he realized his mistake, he immediately reorganized Aisha's bed. The following day after Aisha returned from her friend's house, she seemed surprised by the neat and clean room condition. After that, she advised Sid to return to his house and work for his father's company, but he refused the suggestion because he wanted to work in the field that he was interested in and by his passion. Hearing this, Aisha introduces Sid to a photographer-director named Amit at the company where she works. After Amit sees the photos captured by Sid, he seems impressed by Sid's talent and decides to accept him as an intern in his division. A few days later, on his first day working, Sid met Tanya, who worked as a designer at the company. Meanwhile, Sid's mother came to Aisha's house to thank her for being kind enough to accommodate Sid all this time while giving her some money. But Aisha humbly refused the money because she did that because she considered Sid as her good friend. Hearing this, Sid's mother gave some of Sid's favorite mangoes for the two to enjoy together while telling Aisha not to tell Sid about her arrival at her house. Since Sid lived with Aisha, he began to change into a better person and always tried to help her complete household chores. He is increasingly active in his work because he has found his passion and enjoys his work. A few days later, when Sid and Aisha's office was off, Sid then told Aisha that he would go to a club with Tanya tonight. Hearing this, Aisha congratulates Sid with annoyance and hints that she is jealous of him and Tanya's closeness, but he doesn't realize it. The following day, Sid gets an offer to take a picture of a family who lives next to Aisha's house. He then took pictures of a boy with his mother, which made him remember his childhood memories when he and his mother spent time together. This incident made Sid aware of his mother's sincere love, so he immediately went to meet his mother and apologized because he had hurt his mother's heart before. The next day, Sid meets Amit and asks permission so he can take photos for the next issue of the magazine because he wants to prove that his work deserves to be included in the magazine. On the other hand, Aisha's article was finally approved by Kabir to be included in the next issue of the magazine because her article was very meaningful and touching. A few days passed, and Aisha began to notice the developments and changes of Sid, and she began to be amazed by Sid's talent and hard work. In the evening, Sid and Aisha went to a traditional Indian music performance party and seemed to enjoy their company. After coming home from the party, half drunk, Sid invites Aisha to sleep together. Aisha, who has fallen in love with him, accepts the invitation. On another day, Sid looks excited after getting a promotion letter to become an assistant photographer and gets his first salary at the company. Sid went to his father's company to meet him and apologize because he had run away from home and rejected his offer to work in the company. He says that now he has a job that matches his passion and he got his first salary. Hearing Sid's words, his father looks proud of his hard work and he hugs Sid. The next day, Sid decided to return to his parents' house so he wouldn't bother Aisha anymore. After packing all his things, he then told Aisha that he would go home that day because his family problem had been resolved. Unfortunately, Aisha looks sad with Sid, who is about to leave, and they end up fighting with each other before Sid returns to his house. After Sid returned to his house, he seemed happy because he could finally go back to sleep in his very comfortable and warm room, while Aisha looked lonely after Sid left her house. One day Sid's servant gave him a Mumbai magazine he had been subscribed to, and he immediately opened the magazine. Sid accidentally sees an article written by Aisha and just realizes that the article is a story about Aisha's life experience while in Mumbai and her meeting with him. At the end of the story, Aisha reveals that she has fallen in love with Sid, and it makes him realize that Aisha's attitude has been her sincerity and love for him. Sid immediately rushed to the beach because he felt sure that Aisha was there. After all, it was their favorite place. The film closes with Sid approaching Aisha and saying that he also loves her before they finally hug each other, marking the beginning of their love affair. The moral that can be learned from this movie is the failures we have experienced in life are not the end of everything, and there will always be another way to the success we dream of.